My name's Daniel. I've lived in the same small neighborhood outside Portland for about 5 years now. It's quiet. Older houses, big trees, the kind of street where you recognize every car that passes by. Last Halloween, something happened that I still can't fully explain. It started about a week before October 31st. There's a house at the very end of our street, number 47. It's been empty for as long as I've been here. The grass grows tall, mail piles up, and nobody ever answers the door. But last year, one night, around 11 p.m., I noticed something strange. A soft green light glowing from the upstairs window. At first I thought it was just a reflection, maybe a motion light or someone cutting through the yard with a flashlight. But the next night, it was there again. Same color, same window. A few neighbors noticed, too. My next-door neighbor, Paul, joked about it one morning. Guess the ghosts at 47 finally paid the power bill. We laughed, but honestly, it got under my skin. 3 days before Halloween, I decided to walk my dog past the house after work. The air was cold, and the streetlights had that yellow flicker. As we got close, my dog froze, not barked, just locked in place, ears up, staring at the front door. That's when I noticed it. The door was cracked open, just a sliver, but open. I stopped a few feet away, trying to listen. The only sound was the wind and a faint hum, like electricity buzzing from somewhere inside. I pulled out my phone, switched on the flashlight, and took a few steps up the walkway. The smell hit me first, something stale, like mold and metal. I leaned to look through the gap, but before I could, the door creaked wider, slow and smooth. My heart kicked hard. I turned and walked fast back toward my place, my dog practically dragging me down the street. I didn't even look back. That night, around 1:30 a.m., I woke up to see that same green light. Only now, it wasn't just in the house. It was glowing faintly across the street. Through my window, I saw the light flicker, like someone walking with a lantern. It moved along the sidewalk, then stopped, right in front of my driveway. I sat frozen in bed. My dog started whining, low and shaky. The light hovered there for maybe 10 seconds, then just blinked out. Total darkness. I barely slept. The next day, Halloween morning, I told Paul about it. He laughed, said maybe it was a prank, but when I asked if he'd go with me to check the house, his smile faded. Nah, man, that place creeps me out. That night, the street came alive, kids trick-or-treating, parents chatting on porches, lights everywhere. I tried to forget about 47. Around 9 p.m., the crowds thinned. I was handing out the last bit of candy when I saw a little boy, maybe 8 years old, standing at the end of my walkway. He was alone, holding a pillowcase, wearing a cheap skeleton mask. "Hey there," I said. "Need some candy?" He didn't answer. He just pointed down the street, toward the house with the green light. I looked, and sure enough, that upstairs window was glowing again. When I turned back, the boy was gone. At that point, I told myself I had to end it. I grabbed my flashlight and walked down the street. Every house was quiet. Leaves scraped across the pavement. The closer I got to number 47, the colder it felt, like the temperature dropped 10 degrees. The front door was still cracked open. I took a breath, pushed it, and stepped inside. The green light came from upstairs. The hum was louder now, vibrating in the walls. The smell like old dust and damp wood. Each step up the staircase creaked under my weight. When I reached the landing, I saw it. A room with no furniture, no curtains, just that light spilling from a bare bulb hanging from the ceiling. But the bulb wasn't connected to anything. The wire was cut, hanging loose. On the floor beneath it were 4 small pumpkins, arranged in a circle. Each one carved with a different face. Sad, angry, laughing, screaming. And in the center of the circle was the same skeleton mask the boy had been wearing. I backed away, heart pounding. That's when I heard the footsteps behind me. Heavy, deliberate. One step, then another. I turned, flashlight shaking in my hand. Nothing there, just the empty hallway. Then the light blinked off. Total darkness. I stumbled backward down the stairs, hit the front door, and ran. Didn't stop until I was inside my house with the locks bolted. The police came the next morning after I called. They checked the house, said it was completely empty. No pumpkins, no light, no signs anyone had been there. But the weirdest part was, they said there was no electricity service to number 47. It had been shut off for over 7 years. That night, when I took my dog out one last time, I saw something on my porch. A single small pumpkin, freshly carved with a laughing face. And inside, faintly glowing, was that same green light. I still live here. I still pass number 47 sometimes during the day. But when Halloween comes around, I keep my curtains closed and the porch light off. Some things are better left in the dark.
My name's Lauren. I live in a small apartment complex just outside of Denver. It's one of those buildings where everyone kind of knows each other by face, but not by name. I've lived here for about 3 years, and until last Halloween, nothing strange ever happened. That night, I was home alone. My roommate, Kelly, had gone to a costume party across town, and I decided to stay in, order pizza, and watch a few horror movies. It was cold, windy, the kind of night that makes your windows rattle a little. Ironically, I was halfway through The Conjuring when I heard it, someone knocking on my living room window. It wasn't loud, just 3 slow knocks. I froze. My apartment's on the ground floor, so anyone could walk right up to the glass if they wanted to. At first, I told myself it was probably kids, maybe someone playing a Halloween prank. But then it came again. 3 knocks, slower this time. I paused the movie and stood up, heart already racing. I didn't want to look, but curiosity won. I walked over, slowly pulled the curtain back, and there was a man standing outside. He was tall, wearing a dirty gray hoodie with the hood up. I couldn't see his face, just the shadow of it. He stood completely still, facing the glass. I took a step back and whispered, "Can I help you?" But he didn't answer. He just tilted his head slightly, like he was studying me. I grabbed my phone, opened the camera, and started recording. As soon as I lifted it toward him, he turned around slowly and walked away toward the tree line behind the building. I kept filming until he disappeared into the dark. My first thought was to call the cops, but then I hesitated. It was Halloween night. Maybe he was just some guy drunk or lost. I locked the windows, double-checked the doors, and tried to shake it off. Around 11:30, my roommate texted me saying she was staying overnight at her friend's place. I replied okay and tried to sleep. But around 1 a.m., I woke up. The sound of leaves crunching outside my window pulled me straight out of bed. I listened closely. The sound moved slowly along the wall, like footsteps dragging through the gravel path that runs along the apartment. I sat up, heart thudding. Then came a faint tap, not on the living room window this time, on my bedroom one. I stayed still. The tapping repeated 3 times. I picked up my phone, turned on the flashlight, and pointed it toward the window. The curtains were drawn, but the outline of a shadow was visible against the thin fabric. A man's head, slightly tilted. I couldn't breathe. I dialed 911. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. I whispered to the operator that someone was outside my window. She told me to stay on the line, lock the door, and stay quiet until officers arrived. I whispered okay, grabbed my bat, and stepped slowly toward my bedroom door. That's when I heard the window creak, like it was being lifted. I bolted out of the room, slammed the door behind me, and pressed my back to the wall. I could hear it, wood scraping, glass shifting, then a dull thud as something dropped onto the floor inside my room. The operator heard it too. "Ma'am, please get somewhere safe," she said. "Officers are on their way." I ran into the bathroom, locked myself in, sat on the floor, and tried not to cry. It felt like forever, but in reality, the police arrived less than 5 minutes later. They banged on my door, called my name, and told me it was safe. When I came out, 2 officers were in my bedroom. The window had been forced open from the outside. They found muddy footprints on the floor, leading halfway across the room, and then stopping, as if the person just vanished. I showed them the video I'd recorded earlier that night. The officers exchanged looks. One of them said, "We've had reports about a man matching that description. He's been seen near several buildings, always around Halloween." I asked if they caught him. The officer just shook his head. The weird part, they said the footprints weren't from shoes. They looked like bare feet. The building replaced my window the next day. I bought extra locks, cameras, motion lights, the works. But every Halloween since then, around midnight, my security light flickers on for no reason. And when I check the footage in the morning, there's always the same frame, just one. A tall man in a gray hoodie, standing perfectly still outside my window. My name's Daniel. I used to live in a small house in northern Michigan with my mom. It wasn't much, but it was quiet, surrounded by forest. We'd moved there after my dad passed away, hoping to start over. The house was old, built in the 60s, and creaked at night like it was alive. I got used to that sound. What I didn't get used to was the sound of breathing coming from under my bed. The first time I heard it, I thought it was the wind. The windows weren't exactly sealed well, and the trees outside made strange noises. But this wasn't the wind.
It happened late one night, around 2:30 a.m. I was lying in bed, half asleep, when I heard a slow, shaky inhale, and then a deep exhale. It came from right beneath me. I told myself it was my imagination. Maybe I'd left the fan on, but the sound happened again, closer this time. I turned on my bedside lamp and leaned over the edge of the bed. The space underneath was pitch black. I reached down and pulled up the blanket hanging off the side. Nothing, just old boxes and dust. I turned off the light and tried to sleep, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone or something was down there. The next night, I decided to check before bed. I grabbed my flashlight, looked under. Nothing. But at exactly 2:30 a.m., I woke up again to the same sound. A deep inhale, long pause, and a slow, rattling exhale. This time, I knew I wasn't imagining it. I called out, "Mom!" No response. Her room was at the other end of the hallway. I leaned over the side of the bed again. My flashlight was on the nightstand. I grabbed it, turned it on, and aimed it under the bed. The beam hit something pale. I froze. There was a hand, an actual hand pressed against the floorboards. The fingers twitched once, then disappeared into the darkness. I jumped out of bed, ran to my mom's room, and banged on the door. "Mom, there's someone under my bed!" She shot up, confused, grabbed her phone, and followed me. When we got there, she turned on the lights, and together we looked under. Nothing, just the same old boxes. My mom thought maybe I'd had a nightmare. She checked all the doors and windows. Everything was locked. But I knew what I saw. The next few nights were quiet. No sounds, no movement. I started to think maybe she was right. Maybe I was just stressed out. Until one morning I woke up to find something on my pillow. It was a small piece of paper folded 2 times. I unfolded it. There were 3 words written in shaky handwriting. "Stop looking under." I screamed for my mom. We called the police this time. They searched the entire house, attic, basement, crawl space, everything. One officer came out of my room holding a small rusted metal grate. He said it covered an access vent beneath the floorboards. The screws had been removed from the inside. They went down there and found old sleeping bags, empty food wrappers, and a small flashlight. Someone had been living in the crawl space. The officer said the person had been sneaking out at night, probably through the vent in my closet, and hiding under my bed whenever they heard me move. He said the footprints led to the woods behind the house, but they never found who it was. After that night, I couldn't sleep in that room anymore. We moved out a week later. I still think about it sometimes, especially around 2:30 in the morning, when the house is quiet and the floor starts to creak. Because sometimes I swear I still hear that breathing.